I'm Melissa Lane, and welcome to the LifeKraft podcast. LifeKraft is passionate about helping you live your everyday life better by sharing inspiration, awareness, and tools to enable you to create a fulfilling life. I'm sitting on my living room floor, and it's a beautiful summer's day. It's November in South Africa. The birds are chirping. I'm looking at the mountains and the trees. Everything is green and gorgeous. And I've got some incense going, and I, for the life of me, cannot figure out where this year went. Time has absolutely flown by in 2021, and if you are feeling overwhelmed and less productive all of a sudden, don't worry, it's absolutely normal. It's called end-of-year fatigue, and that is what this episode is going to be about. I want to share some tips with you to help you cope better with end-of-year fatigue. So before we get into that, I just want to remind you, absolutely love hearing from you. So make sure you take a screenshot of yourself listening to this episode, follow along on social media at the LifeKraft, and tag me as well, Melissa Lane Wellness. All of the things will be in the description below, and share your thoughts, share your feelings, or if there was something that stood out for you in a positive way, share that with us. And be sure to download this episode, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and just follow along with the journey, because we have some amazing things coming up till the end of the year for you. So I don't want you to miss out on that. So, with less than 2 months left of the year, so many people are struggling with end-of-year fatigue. Now, it might be the first time that you hear that word, but I promise you, you might have felt it. I came back from a little trip that I took after my big program, the Live It program. It's a 6-week online group coaching program, ended, and I just wanted to go away for a couple of days. And I got back home, and I remember waking up that first day, and I could not open my eyes, and I had zero motivation, and for some or other reason I was a little irritable. I couldn't concentrate, and it was just not a vibe. And I realized that it wasn't just like a little vacation fatigue. No, this was definitely end of year fatigue kicking in, because there are so many deadlines, there are so many commitments that we are flooded with, there are family responsibilities, and there are things shifting around with my clients. And I really started to feel that pressure that so many of us feel at the end of the year. But I learned about this a couple of years ago, so I don't feel like what is wrong with me and what is going on with me. And that's why I wanted to create this little podcast episode for you, so that you don't ever have to worry about why you might be feeling a little bit off in November and December. It's an actual phenomena. It's something that causes people to feel more tired, irritable, and overwhelmed as the year comes to an end. And I don't know about you, but just this year has been so hard on so many different levels. And I know in my own life, in my clients' life, in my friends and family, I hear them speaking of 2020 being even tougher than 2021. And I just want to remind you that it is a real thing. There are things like pandemic fatigue that we are experiencing, so many shifts and changes that are happening in the world. So if this year you are feeling even more irritable, tired, and overwhelmed in November and December, it's okay. So let's look at the symptoms of end-of-year fatigue and what they include. So some of the symptoms are boredom, lack of sleep or poor quality sleep, irritability, insomnia, poor concentration, forgetfulness, a lack of motivation and willpower, anxiety, and even depression. And it makes sense, because we're showered with deadlines and commitments and responsibilities and holiday plans and things that we need to do for our kids and for our families and for the business. And we just need to tie up loose ends. So I really want you to start embracing the fact that the end of the year, this is the vibe. People around you are going through this. You might be going through this, and use what I'm going to share with you today not only to cope better in your own life, but also to have understanding and compassion with people who are going through these exact same things, but they're not listening to this podcast. So they just think they're going crazy, or they just think life sucks. It doesn't. It absolutely is just a collective energy. It's a lot of pressure on us in a certain time of year, and there are ways to cope. So here are 5 tips to help you cope better with end of year fatigue. Are you ready? Do you have a pen and paper? If you're like me, I write everything down, or I make notes on my phone, and I always refer back to them. I'm that person. But anyway, let's dig into point number 1. Have a tool to help you manage stress. Now, I know you might be rolling your eyes and saying, oh, Lord, Melissa, everyone talks about managing stress. And the reason I use the word manage is because you can't get rid of stress. There are always going to be stresses in your life. But what I have found in my own life that has made me a much better person to deal with, and not just in my own head, like for my own mental health, but for those around me too, is having tools that help me to manage the stress in my life. So my yoga teacher, who I just looked up to so much, her name was Guru Jagat. She used to say that stress is you asking for expansion from life giving you that expansion, and you not keeping up with the expansion. Now, that's one way of looking at stress, but the others are these kind of weird things that just happen. It's governments and fuel increases and inflation and all of these things happening in the world around us, and riots and just a pandemic that we just went through. And these types of things really take their toll on the body and on the mind. And if you go into a season like this, November, December, where we can feel end of year fatigue, and you don't have anything in place to help you cope, you are going to crumble under the pressure that the stresses in your life can cause you. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, you are not the type of person that wants to crumble. You are 10 to 1, the type of person that wants to craft a life that you're actually excited to wake up to. So you need tools. Yogi Bhajan always used to say, if you don't have tools, you're a fool. And I absolutely believe that. So a couple of the tools that you can adopt, especially over this next season, are things like meditation. Now, meditation, you might be so tired of hearing meditation, but I promise you, it is one of the best tools that you can use to start lowering the effects of stress in your life. Taking 15 to 20 minutes either in the morning or whenever you can, to be quite honest, to just sit in silence or use a guided meditation if that is better for you. There are so many different ways of meditating. Don't get stuck in just one type of modality, but just getting that practice going and really committing to doing that every single day. Just say for 40 days. That's about till the end of the year. I promise you, you will feel such a big relief. If you have to get up 15 or 20 minutes earlier, do that. If you have to go and sit in your car and do a 15-minute guided meditation, do that. There are wonderful apps, amazing resources. If you'd like, there's a free downloadable meditation on my website. I'll put the link in the description below. Go and try it out. There's one that you can use in the mornings to prep you for your day on the LifeKraft podcast YouTube channel. So go and check that out. All the links will be in the description. But I really want you to start adopting something like meditation. If that's not for you, perhaps try something like yoga or breath work. You can even spend more time in nature, not on your phone, not busy doing something, just spending time in nature, going for walks. Exercise is a fantastic tool that you can use to help you manage stress. So if you want to break out of diet culture, which is my thing as a health coach, I want you to start reframing the idea of exercise, not as this schlep that you need to do to lose weight or to look a certain way, but it's this tool to help you be stronger, a tool to help you manage stress in your life. It has so many benefits for your body. And then something simple like having a really solid morning routine. There are so many books you can use. One of my favorites is The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. It's such a great book to use to get a really solid, amazing morning routine going. You can also do things like having fun. playing with your dogs, playing with your kids, having a hobby, maybe playing some music, maybe painting, maybe writing, perhaps reading, and then something like journaling, getting all of your thoughts out onto a piece of paper. And then you can even burn it if you'd like, or you can just leave it there. You don't ever have to go back to those pages. It's just about getting everything that's inside of you out. And it's such a great stress relief. And I really want you to think of it this way. You don't need to do all of these things. You don't even need to do any of the things that I mentioned. These are only a few of the options you have. You have to get to know yourself so well so that you know what your kind of wonky knee is. What is the weakest link in your psychology, in your life? What is going to trip you up and make life more stressful? And how can you manage that type of event, or how can you manage yourself, your own psychology, before you get to that stressful event or that stressful situation in your life? It really is one of the most powerful things you can do. Self-psychology is fantastic. Getting to know yourself in that way is one of the best tools you can have to manage stress in your life. So choose one of these. Choose something that I didn't even mention, like perhaps essential oils or whatever your vibe is, but just learn how to manage stress in your life and do it consciously. Make a note of it, schedule it into your routine. Then secondly, and that's just going to fit into the whole scheduling thing, I want you to not manage time, but manage activities. I remember I was listening to Bob Proctor, and he said that one of his mentors told him, you can't manage time. Time isn't something that you can manage. You can, however, manage activities. And I became obsessed with that whole notion, because I know that most of the successful people that I have studied and I have seen and that I have had the honor of knowing, they had this amazing ability to just be super productive. They used things like meditation, yoga, breathwork, and all of those things to manage the stresses in their life. And they it looked like they could stretch time. They could just do more with the exact same amount of hours that the rest of us have. And I remember always hearing that line that Beyonce has the same amount of hours that the rest of us do. And I would think, yes, but she doesn't have the same amount of responsibilities probably, or the nitty-gritty things, or this person asking her to do that, or that type of responsibility. And what I learned was that is a terrible mindset to have, and I started changing it. And secondly, you don't manage time, you manage activities. Take time out of the equation, and there are tools that you can use to do that. So the first thing I want you to do when you start managing your activities in your life is to get clear on your priorities. So many of the things that we do are busy work, but it's not necessarily the types of things that are going to be needle moving things in our life. So we're not really clear usually on where we want to go and what action steps we need to take to get there, and what skills we need to acquire to be the type of person that can just manifest that goal. And one of the things that I learned from people like Brendon Burchard and Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi was the clearer you are on where you want to be, and the clearer you are on the steps that it'll take you to get there, not necessarily every nuance, but the big ones, I need to do this by then, and I need to get that done by then, the quicker you'll get to your goal. And one of the things that happens with people when it's the end of year fatigue syndrome kicking in is we get so overwhelmed by all of the things coming in. We aren't clear on what we want to accomplish and what our priorities are. So I want you to take a piece of paper and look at your schedule from now till the end of the year and write down what are 3 to 5 of the priorities that you have, that you want to finish, whether it's deadlines, whether it's things you still want to do, people you still want to visit, family members you might be able to see that you weren't able to see last year with the pandemic, and things like that. I just want you to get clear on your priorities, write them down, and then I want you to use a tool like Google Calendar, a time blocking journal, which is one of the most successful things to use when you want to manage your activities. And just stick to your schedule. So that is the thing. You need to get clear on your priorities. You need to use a tool like a time blocking journal or your calendar or your diary. I don't care, old school, whatever. Just write it down, type it down, have it there. Every single thing that you need to accomplish, every single commitment that you have. And then I want you to stick to your schedule. And the reason I say that is so many of us get caught up in other people's drama, other people's priorities, other people's goals, and we completely forget our own. And as I say that, you might be thinking of a couple of instances where that has happened to you. It happens to me all the time. When someone just calls you randomly with a problem that you need to solve, but it's their problem. You have absolutely the right to say, not now, I'm busy doing this. Can we schedule it for later? Is there a way that we can maybe put it into my schedule? Small things like that will make a huge difference, especially when it comes to end of year fatigue, because you're already feeling overwhelmed. Then the last thing when it comes to managing activities versus managing time is I want you to write down all of the activities, and then I want you to be very, very honest with perhaps one or two of those things that you can let go, that you can say no to, that you can cancel, that you can reschedule, especially if your end of year fatigue is really bad. If your end of year fatigue is going into anxiety and depression, that means you're overwhelmed by the activities in your life 10-1. And you absolutely have the right to say no to a couple of them. You absolutely have the right. You need to use your no at this time to manage your activities well, so that when you get to the end of the year, you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, and you've done all of the things that were your priorities because you got clear on them. You used a tool like a time blocking journal or your diary to really schedule in every meditation, every single visit, every exercise you do, every meeting you have scheduled time for doing your emails, scheduled time for social media, scheduled time for this. Just put it all in there. It might sound neurotic. It's so powerful. And then you need to stick to your schedule. So if someone else comes in with their things that are not your priority, and it's not a major life-changing event, it's just something that people are used to doing because we're all egocentric, we all think our lives are the most important lives there are. I want you to stick to your schedule, and then I want you to use your no. Use that no. Reschedule. Tell people that you are just overwhelmed. You can't take on more responsibilities. You can't go to that party. You will send them love and you'll send them a gift, but you can't see them for the entire night. You'll have to leave at 7 so that you can do this next thing. And that is point number 3, prioritize sleep. Now that might be one of the toughest things to do when you are feeling end of year fatigue because you're already irritable. You might be feeling insomnia kicking in, and the forgetfulness and the pressure and the overwhelmment and the anxiety will make it really hard to get into that restful place of sleeping. But I promise you this, prioritizing sleep is going to be one of the things that are going to be most powerful when you need to overcome end of year fatigue. Your body needs that rest and repair. Your body needs that time to just shut down and do all of the inner work that it needs to do. Because our minds can be so busy with everything that we still need to do, our bodies never get the chance to rest. So yes, managing stress will help, but there are a couple of other things that you can do as well. You can biohack a bit, so you can do things like taking cold showers. You can also invest in something like blue blockers, especially if you're in front of a screen for most of your day. Inside, in front of that blue light, invest in something like blue blockers. They have been shown to help sleep quality. So it might not help when it comes to the amount of sleep, but it'll definitely help with the quality of your sleep. Then spending time outside first thing in the morning is absolutely great for your hormones. So getting outside into the sunlight for just a couple of minutes, like 5 or 10 minutes, first thing in the morning, is great for your sleep that night. And then you can do something like not having really heavy foods late at night so that your digestive system can also get a rest. So it's not for weight loss, it's not for any of that. It's absolutely just giving your body a break, because our bodies work really hard to digest foods, especially if it's very rich and very heavy foods, if I could put it like that, foods that are highly processed, foods that are filled with a lot of vegetable oils and things like that our bodies really need to work hard at digesting. I want you to focus in on maybe not having heavy foods every single night when you're prioritizing your sleep. Then look at limiting your alcohol. So many people turn to alcohol to sleep better, but alcohol does not make you sleep better. It actually makes you sleep worse, because it dehydrates you, it makes your liver work harder, and it really is not the way to deal with the stresses in your life, because it keeps the stresses there. It doesn't teach you how to cope with them. It just numbs you for a while. And no judgment. Sometimes that's great. I've been there. Sometimes a glass of wine at the end of the day feels better than a meditation at the end of the day. But I promise you, it's not sustainable. And it might lead to a dependency that you don't deserve, because you're here to craft a life you love, not to escape life. So I want you to keep that in mind. Limit the alcohol intake if you want to have better quality sleep. Then you can also do something as simple as darkening your room, not having too many lights and distractions on in your room, having your room be a little bit cold, a little bit cooler. That's fantastic for sleep quality. And then the last thing is something simple like having a nice warm bath just before you head to bed. There is so much evidence of all of these things. You can just Google it. It's amazing. But any of those things will start helping you to prioritize sleep and to have you deal with insomnia that might be caused with your end of year fatigue. Then the next thing, point number 4, is eat foods that'll fuel and nourish your body. Now, I'm a health coach by profession, and I absolutely am amazed on a weekly basis at the effect that food has, not only on our physical health, but on our mental health as well. When you're going through something like end-of-year fatigue, the last thing you might want to prioritize is what you eat. But I promise you, it is going to be the thing that's going to be the game changer for you when it comes to the amount of energy you have, vitality you have, concentration you have, clarity you have, and just a general feeling of lightness, not that heaviness that this time of year can bring. So I want you to look at prioritizing things like whole foods and lessening things like processed foods. So whole foods are things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, seeds, nuts, those types of things. Really look at bringing in more of those things and then lessening the processed foods. So processed foods are obviously things like takeout and foods that come in these packages, foods with long ingredient lists. I don't care about the health halos that are on them. Try and avoid foods that are highly processed, with highly processed vegetable oils, highly processed things like sugar, high amounts of salt. Those things take their toll on your body. Are they good or bad? That's not for me to say. That's your personal choice. I just want to tell you that those types of things can drain your body. Your body has this amazing natural vitality inside of it. And it is so great when you put in alkaline food into this vessel, not acidic food, which are more processed, the amount of energy that you'll have to be able to cope with all of the pressures that this time of year can bring, it's just going to be phenomenal. Then the last little tidbit when it comes to eating foods that'll fuel and nourish you is look at any food sensitivities and allergens that are in your body. So a lot of us are not aware of small things that are actually draining our bodies and that are actually causing food sensitivities in our bodies. So look at spending time with a health coach. You can do an elimination diet with them. Perhaps you can invest in a visit to your homeopath, or you can go to your doctor, or you can go to your functional medicine doctor and just find out what are the allergens that are kind of making small flare-ups in your body, and avoid them at times like this when you're under pressure and when you're feeling the end of year fatigue, because you'll see that your body needs to really focus in on those types of symptoms, and it's not going to have as much energy for you to do the things that you actually want to do, those priorities on your activity management lists. And I really want you to look at that. Less allergens in your body. Like one of mine is definitely dairy. I feel it in my body if I have too much dairy. And I'm really one of those people that I love cheese and I love those types of things. I don't want to eat it. And most of the time I don't, because I definitely feel the effect in my tummy and I feel like little just inflammation in my body. But it's because I've gotten to know my body so well and I'm really in tune with it. But we have all of these things, from soy to eggs to dairy to gluten, whatever your food sensitivity is, that could be draining energy in your body as well. So just become aware of it. It's a powerful little tool that you can use, and then drink a lot of good quality water. It's going to help you with end of year fatigue. Then lastly, tip number 5, and I think this might be the most important tip, and this is definitely a reminder for myself as well. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself this time of year. We're living in a strange time. As I said, pandemic fatigue is a real thing. People are still going through massive changes. As a collective, we've gone through shifts that we weren't ready to deal with, and a lot of us went through a lot of trauma in this time as well. Really heavy trauma. World affairs are kind of bonkers at the moment, and we might feel a little unsafe at this time. And I want to remind you of the fact that life can be very long, but life is also very short, and that's kind of the paradox. You might still be here for a long time, so you have time to do all of the things that you want to do. But on the other side, life is really short and none of us are guaranteed another breath, to be quite honest. And that kind of makes life really special. So I want you to think of this. Yes, there are a lot of things that you might need to do before the end of the year. A lot of commitments, a lot of things that are out of your control, if I could put it that way, that you just need to show up for, and do that. And use the tools that I suggested today, or even just use this as inspiration to get your own little toolkit ready for this year-end phenomenal time that we're heading into, with all of the functions and all of the things and all of the deadlines that we need to face. But don't forget to enjoy the moment too. Don't forget to enjoy where you're at. If you have to go to your child's school function, then enjoy being there. They're never going to be that age again. And you're never going to be the parent of that child at that age ever again. If you have some deadlines that you need to finish, just be present in that moment of finishing that deadline, knowing that you're serving that client, or you are growing that company, or you have the opportunity to solve a problem for someone, whatever your industry is. And if it's family stuff, just embrace the fact that you have family. As crazy as that might sound, and they might be, just enjoy those people and those spirits in your life, and knowing that we make too much of all of this. We really do. Even the things that are really important and that really need your focus and your attention and your clarity and your presence. you might be making too much of a lot of this. And then I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes by Tony Robbins. And I want you to take that to heart when you are feeling that end of year fatigue sinking in. And that is, we tend to overestimate what we can do in a year, and we tend to underestimate what we can do in a decade. So whether that is what you can accomplish, what you can become, what you can manifest, what you can build, whatever it is, we tend to overestimate what we can do in a year. And that leaves us feeling really overwhelmed and perplexed and like we didn't accomplish everything that we wanted to. But we tend to underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So I want to encourage you, don't be too hard on yourself. Start playing a longer game than just year to year to year. How about you start focusing not on the yearly cycle of accomplishments and goals and manifesting and all of those things, but you start focusing on a 10-year cycle. And if you take some time right now to think about where you were 10 years ago compared to where you are now, you might be amazed at the things that you've accomplished, the person that you've become, the experiences that you've gathered, the things that you have brought into this magnificent world. And if you're looking at it and you're saying, Melissa, no, I wasted 10 years. I'm not in a spot where I want to be. I'm living the same year over and over again, or I've actually gone backwards. I don't know how it happened. Use this as a catalyst to make the next 10 years amazing. You have the ability to craft the life that you want. You need the tools, you need the skills, and then you need some inspiration so that you can thrive and create that life. And that's what the LifeKraft podcast is here for. We've got some amazing episodes coming up till the end of the year. An amazing banger of a January 2022. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you download these episodes. Make sure you become part of the community. Talk to me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. Find us on YouTube. Download the videos. Do the meditations. Do the work. And you'll see that end of year fatigue won't hit you as hard this year because you've got the tools, you've got some clarity. And then make the next 10 years the best 10 years. And remember that it's never about what you achieve. It's about who you become in the process of getting those achievements. And that's where the juice lies. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I am always honored to be in your headphones or speaking to you in your car, wherever you are. I love to get to know you, so definitely reach out. Find all of the details in the description below and enjoy the rest of 2021. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode and taking the time to invest in yourself and in your future. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with us by leaving a positive review or tagging us in a post or in your stories. Share one thing that stood out or inspired you to live your everyday life better. This helps us create more meaningful episodes for you to enjoy. If you're not already following us on social media, be sure to follow @LifeKraft for more inspiration and tools to help you live your most powerful life. And remember, you always have the power to craft a better life for yourself, and we are here to help you do just that. We'll connect again in the next episode, and until then, keep creating a life that you're excited to wake up to. We enjoy bringing you interviews from experts and everyday people so that they can talk about their experiences and share information, tips, and what has worked for them on their journey towards a better life. However, remember that the opinions or advice of our guests and myself, the host, should not be taken as personal, actionable advice and is given as general information and education only. Please always remember to consult a qualified professional before implementing any medical, financial, legal, or other advice that you believe might work for you. LifeKraft is not responsible nor liable for your decision when implementing anything you hear on the podcast. Please listen and act responsibly. The opinions of our guests do not represent the opinions or views of LifeKraft or Melissa Lane personally and are meant as information and general education only. Education only. Education only.